special election series, Political Roots, a series in which we take prominent politicians back literally to their roots, to their old colleges to face new voters. We believe in these series because we think that our most formative years are actually our years as young students. That's really when our ideologies, our leanings first take shape and form. We also believe that this is an important series because this is an election in which the younger generation has a really significant voice, one perhaps that's been underestimated. Take a look at the statistics. You have 47% of the electorate actually under 35, and 2.3 crore voters are between the ages of 18 and 19. It is from these young voters that we want politicians to go back to their roots and face questions that we believe are tougher than any that come from any television anchor. On Political Roots today, we're going to dim our lights now and introduce, as we talk about the relevance of the left on national politics and whether it still has any remaining clout, take a look at who our guest is on Political Roots this evening from St. Stephen's College, Delhi University.
Please restore order.
When Parliament debated the creation of a separate state of Telangana, Sitaram Yechuris was a vocal voice fighting to speak above the noise. But in an irony of history, and one that perhaps few are aware of, it was more than 4 decades ago when his home state of Andhra Pradesh was first hit by Telangana trouble that his family decided to shift him from Hyderabad to Delhi, where he studied economics at St. Stephen's College. His leanings for the left were evident to his friends from the very word go. But the relatively cocooned and sanitized environment of Stevens discouraged Sitaram's early passion for active student politics. Something that first formally crystallized for him in his subsequent years at JNU, where an arrest during the emergency years stood between him and a PhD degree, and where he was elected president of the Students' Union thrice during 1 year. By now, still only in his early 20s, Sitaram knew that his commitment to politics would come before his pursuit of any more educational degrees.
In a class of 60, there were just 4 or 5 of us who were atypical Stephanians, in the sense that we didn't come as part of groups from elite schools of Delhi or Kolkata, or from the elite boarding schools in the hills. Sitaram came from the government school at the President's Estate. I came from the Delhi Tamil school, and we had a dear friend who was the lone representative of Sardar Patel Vidyalaya. So since we didn't know anyone else when we joined, it was our group which got formed first and very quickly. I never imagined that Sitaram would one day be a full-time politician. Of course, he didn't nurture the conventional ambitions of the Stephanians of the 70s, which were IAS, IFS. Business management had just become fashionable, so cushy job in the private sector. I thought he'd either become an academic, or I thought he'd become a lawyer because he had law in his blood. His grandfather was the Chief Justice of the Andhra Pradesh High Court.
Such confidential matters of communication between the defense...
In Parliament today, Sitaram Yechuris' outspoken but non-abrasive political style has helped him win friends across the trenches, even among ideological opponents. His humour, say his friends from college, always helped him in delivering the sharpest blows without causing offence.
What I recall always of Sita is that
He has a very understated but powerful sense of humor. So he would say something and it would take you a minute to know that he's either made a pun or made a dig or actually cracked a very witty joke.
As a prominent leader of the CPM, Sitaram Yechuri has since travelled the globe and been at the forefront of the domestic policy debate in India. But what his closest friends recall of him is none of this. Instead, for them, the indelible memory of Sitaram is what they call his incurable romanticism and, of course, his ever-present packet of Charms cigarettes.
He was an avid film buff. He was up to date with all the latest Hindi movies of the days in the 70s. I also remember him as an incurable romantic who would learn up the lyrics of so many Hindi film songs with love as their theme, and in his quaint mix of Stephanian slang and his Hyderabadi Dakhini twang, he would blow smoke rings. He used to smoke Charms and say, "Hajar symbolism re or Hajar philosophy re."
On Political Roots today, taking Sitaram Yechuri back to where it all began. All right, so to introduce the left's incurable romantic, in Raju Ramachandran's words, let's have a big round of applause for Sitaram Yechuri, our guest on Political Roots this evening. What is an incurable romantic, to borrow from Raju, doing in the hurly-burly of politics? He says he never thought you'd be a full-time politician. Did you?
Well, that's a tough question. And first of all, let me say I'm very thoroughly embarrassed by
That's the idea. That's the whole idea.
Yes,
that is the whole idea.
But I think I'm very touched that Raju remembers so much of all this. It was almost
Your love poetry?
No. But being a romantic, I somehow think it is an essential part of anyone's being. I mean, you can't not be romantic. I mean, how can it be? I mean, you're not human if you're not romantic. So, but romantic about what? You know, that's what it is. I mean, you could be, you can get lost in being romantic, or you can use that romance for a purpose, which is
for a larger calling, a deeper calling, yeah.
And therefore, you get romantic about things which are not really personal,
But did you know here in St. Stephen's, or did it take your JNU years to, in a sense, bring you face to face with active politics?
Well, I think that sort of a point actually came during the emergency.
You went to jail?
Yeah.
You couldn't complete your PhD. Did you ever regret that you couldn't complete your PhD?
In a sense, yes. I mean, why not? I was almost ready to do it. But I don't have regrets in the sense of not really having accomplished something. These were the corridors where I first jotted down in the Delhi Coop notebooks those days, a saying of Marx. I had really not known who he was by then.
So you read Marx first at St. Stephen's?
Yes, I was introduced at Stephen's. Very strange it may sound to the younger generation.
You don't think everyone at 18 is a Marxist?
No, unfortunately, I wish they were.
So let me just put this to the audience. Those of you who consider yourself left-leaning, in however you interpret the word, raise your hand. So I am seeing a few hands go up. Why do you call yourself a Marxist?
Not a Marxist, but towards left, not center, but center left, I would say. That is in contrast with, let's say, crony capitalism that you kind of see these days.
Yeah.
So, notions of social justice and social welfare, those are very fundamental, especially in the context of the Indian society.
You read Marx here. Why did he appeal to you?
I tell you what, because the first one that I really noted was, it said, principles of justice can never rise above the economic conditions of the time. That's what triggered off, thinking. I mean, that's the age when you start thinking of these things. Because remember, when I entered Stephen's in 1970, you still had on the chapel written, it was blasphemy. Then for Stephen's, you had on the chapel written, Chairman Mao is our chairman.
Really?
13 students were expelled the year, I mean, when I was joining. And those were the great Maoists of that time, and some of them are, I mean, eminent academicians today. There was an atmosphere in the Delhi University campus of an ultra-left, urban topicality, let's say. What was happening in Naxalbari, what was happening in the left, I mean, why were people moving towards that? There was a very deep churning going on. I mean, after all, by the time you come into portals of St. Stephen's, like Raju said, I mean, the background we came from, you suddenly found yourself very privileged. And we were all, in the sense, somebody who didn't fit into the milieu.
Into the typical
Stevens
milieu of privilege.
Yeah. So there was a degree of alienation that came. And that degree of alienation was then Herbert Marcuse, one-dimensional man, you had existentialism, Jean-Paul Sartre. All this were in the air, and we were all talking about it. Then, of course, you had films like The Anand and Safar and Khamoshi. I mean,
So they were angst-ridden years.
Not merely angst, but anxiety-ridden in the sense that where are you going?
Now, Raju told us a story that in your years at Stevens, you got an exchange program to go to the United States of America. The dean was not very keen that you go. You managed to convince him and so on. Was that your first trip to the United States of America?
Yes. That was my first trip abroad. January 1971. I don't know how many of you were born.
I was born 1 month before that.
That's it. There you go. There you go.
The reason I ask you is because, when you look at the left today and you look at what some call it's anti-Americanism. I mean, there's that famous story about how you meet Barack Obama and he says almost like you're a dying species, oh, I'm so happy to meet an Indian communist. But there were other left parties that actually boycotted him. So, given that it was right here at St. Stephen's that you go to the United States of America, you go outside India for the first time, what place does anti-Americanism of the left have in today's world?
It's not the American people we are against. It's the American administration and its policies. And which I think is something that is, absolutely unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. You can't just because I'm powerful, you can't walk into some country, invade and do what you're doing, etc.
But why don't we hear the same critique of China? These are some of the questions that confront the left today. Then why is it that the left is critical of one of the thriving democracies of the world, but not a country where the free press is throttled, where there's dictatorial control?
You see, there are certain yardsticks by which you measure. When you talk about free democracy in the world, I remember Obama, in fact, asking President Obama at the banquet at the Rashtrapati Bhavan that evening, we have what is called the Golden Book in the Parliament. And then every head of the state who visits the Parliament is supposed to sign on it. This short message. And the message he gave is greetings from the world's oldest democracy to the world's largest. So that evening at the banquet, I had to remind him, sir, I must say, I think you are not entirely correct in what you've written, because it was a year after you were born. In 1962 was the year when the African Americans got the universal right to vote in the United States. So the oldest democracy, I said, we gave universal suffrage from day one. That is our pride. So don't give us lessons of oldest democracy to...
So what did he say? What did he say?
He just turned around to his wife, who was on the left, and then he said, is he right? And so when you have these yardsticks of democracy, democratic rights, how many homeless, how many go hungry, what is happening there, what is the discrimination today, that is one part of the story. With China, yes, whenever there have been any violations of human rights or whenever there have been any such things, we have not hesitated. Though we have very friendly relations with the Communist Party of China, and we believe that India's interest lies in developing friendly relations with China.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about what's happening to the left in today's politics. You had the left at almost 60 coming down to under 25 when you look at seats. Let me first ask you to wear your forecasting hat and say, how will the left parties do in this election according to you?
Well, if I wear the forecasting hat, I'll say better.
But CPM down to 16 seats?
I know, it's a historical low. In fact, 16 is a historical low. We've never had anything less than that.
You don't
or
think
even
it's because
this
the
much.
left has little resonance today. That there are other parties, for example, like the Aam Aadmi Party, that are occupying what was once the rebel space. Does the left have to change its idiom? Does the left have to change its ideology?
As far as changing of the idiom, changing of the methods of struggle, changing of methods of work, there's always a need to change. I think, you see, there have been certain things which we've started correcting ourselves, and hopefully they will show the results fairly soon enough. I mean, you see, one is that in a governing in a state in India, in a situation where the central government is something that you are not in a position to influence, is a very difficult proposition. Because you see, most of the decisive authority lies with the center. As Jyoti Basu once called them, glorified municipalities. You know, so beyond that, what people expect of you to deliver, you're not in a position. But you're not able to convince the people who turn around and say, this is what you talk about, why the hell aren't you doing it?
So do you acknowledge a disconnect between the party and the voters?
No, a disconnect comes in because of that situation, which there is a need to explain to them properly. That explanation was what kept us going for 35 years in Bengal. But when that disconnect did come, that explanation was not there and not sufficiently done, we paid the price.
Every election, you see the left trying to steer a non-Congress, non-BJP front. Look at the early setbacks you've had to this attempt already. You've had Jayalalitha and the alliance with the left break. You've had Naveen Patnaik staying away from that meeting. You have the AGP possibly in talks with the BJP. You have Narendra Modi calling the third front third rate. He has said that the third front is actually only about former prime ministers and aspiring prime ministers.
Well, what is he aspiring for? What does he want to be? Yeah, but
But he's one.
So what is he talking?
He's one. There are 11. There are scores of you. I mean, depending on how many parties you eventually get on board. Jayalalitha wants to be PM. Mulayam Singh wants to be PM. Naveen Patnaik, who knows? Nitish Kumar wants to be PM.
Are you trying to tell me Murli Manohar Joshi does not want to be? Sushma Swaraj does not want to.
But the party has taken a decision.
You see, the point of the issue is various regional leaders will have such aspirations, which I don't think is anything wrong. I mean, but then whether you will be or not be is something that the people will finally have to decide.
But isn't there a contradiction in this front calling itself a non-BJP, non-Congress front? It has parties like the Samajwadi Party, which is doing business with you. It has continued to support this government from the outside.
Let me make one point here. Our objective is not only anti-Congress, anti-BJP. Not that. What we are saying is what the country needs is an alternative policy trajectory. A trajectory which neither the BJP nor the Congress can give. Therefore, in common parlance, it comes down
but
to,
is it
it boils down to...
Is it equidistance?
Equidistance is not a term that is applicable here because we are talking of a different policy direction and we are saying Congress and BJP cannot.
Let me tell you what I mean by it. It basically means you have supported the Congress in the past till you walked out on the nuclear deal. Could you in the future consider supporting a Congress government again to keep out the BJP?
I don't think such a possibility will come about.
If it were to?
It's too hypothetical.
Are you saying the Congress is going to be so washed out that the possibility will not arise?
Neither the Congress nor the BJP, I think, will be in a position to lead any government.
And if it is the Congress?
No, it won't be.
But if it is? But if it is?
Yeah, Barka, come on. I mean, you know, you're trying. I'm in a battle.
No, if the numbers
I'll tell you. I'm in a battle. I'm fighting the battle to win. Now you're going to tell me you lose the battle, and if you lose the battle, what will you do? Then why do I enter the battle?
Let's take questions from our young voters today. And I know Nikita Gupta had a question.
Is there any possibility for left to join Congress again just to keep BJP out?
You see, first of all, the point is I don't think such a possibility or a need will arise. I'm working to ensure that such a thing doesn't happen. Now, if you are asking me, suppose I fail. Suppose such a situation does come.
We're asking you who's the bigger enemy.
You see, both are at the moment. I'll tell you why. Why I'm saying it. I mean, normally, yes, you identify one force as being the major force you want to fight. But I'm telling you reason why is that as far as the current policy direction in the country is concerned, A, it is spawning crony capitalism and therefore corruption. of the highest order possible. B, it is creating two Indias where the chasm between the two is widening. Now, the point is that unless you change this on this score, neither Congress nor BJP is indifferent. BJP has an additional. BJP has an additional danger, and that is the very unity and integrity of my country.
Is it fair to say that you rule out supporting any future Congress government?
At the moment, I am ruling in supporting only an alternative policy trajectory.
Are you disappointed that the Samajwadi Party hasn't fielded candidates against Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi?
Well, that is up to these parties to decide, but I am not really surprised. I think they did something similar last time as well.
Okay, let's take the next question. John Biju. John Biju, where are you? Yes.
So the reason the left has been like prominent in the political system is because it has, had some certain values that it stood for. But now you see recently the left has been aligning itself with parties like the SP one day and the RJD one day. And you know that these parties are definitely self-interest groups who are going to, change after the election. Has the left become open to the policy of going towards opportunistic policies?
Please understand one thing. You see, what we are saying is that the country and the people require an alternate policy trajectory. Now, today, I, by myself, am not in a position, in today's conditions, to make that shift. Because the political support that I need to do that is not there with me. Now, I am today looking for people who are willing to come with me on this score. When the Babri Masjid was demolished, when he said this communal danger was there in our country, which still is there, but the peak that it had reached at that point, when he said that this has to be stopped, otherwise India as we know of it will not exist. So then we went with all those and supported a Congress government.
But you accept that parties like the Samajwadi Party have a credibility problem today?
Yes. There have been at least 6 occasions in the past when, at crucial moments, the Samajwadi Party suddenly distanced themselves from us and then went the other way. Yes, I mean, all of us are aware, and I personally am aware with most of them. But the point is that every time the effort is to try and create a pool which will have the authority to implement an alternative direction. Now, whether we succeed or fail, that is...
Arun Jaitley says the third front is a failed idea. How would you counter that?
Yeah, you see, these are all, I mean, what do you want me to comment on third rate? I mean, I don't get down to third rate comments, no. It may be third rate as somebody says, but third rate, failed ideas. You see, what the Hindu Rashtra concept of RSS has been a failed idea since 1925. Why don't they give it up? Third front is something that has been a mythical construction that has been coming, because it's a very, I admit, it's a very convenient term, other than these two. But basically, you're looking for a combination of parties who are willing to implement a certain policy.
Let's take the next question from Devyansh. Devyansh, where are you? Yes, your question. Yes.
From the 60s and 70s, the communist parties have always been on the streets, right? They've been supporting minorities, whether religious minorities, social minorities. Why have the communist parties now become passive?
Being passive, I don't agree. I mean, there's been nobody is so vocal, so outspoken on the question of defense of minority rights. And the defense of minority rights, remember, doesn't stem from any particular affiliation or building a vote bank. It stems from a very, very strong commitment we have that everybody, irrespective of your religion, caste or your creed or your sex, you are equally treated.
You have invoked again and again this front, this alternative front, as a secular alternative. I ask you this because riots have happened on Mulayam Singh Yadav's watch. He's a constituent of your so-called secular front. We have had children dying in relief camps with Mulayam Singh Yadav refusing to acknowledge that they are riot victims. You have Mulayam Singh Yadav cavorting with Bollywood stars instead of being in the relief camps. How do you invoke the word secularism as a defining identity for your front when someone like Mulayam Singh Yadav is sitting with you?
You see, the point is to try and bring them on board, no? We have been the worst critics or the best critics, let's say, of the Samajwadi Party, his leader. When you remember this anti-communal convention that we held in Talkotara, Indo-Stadium?
Yes, but he was part of it.
On that stage, he had to say that his government, Samajwadi government in Uttar Pradesh, has committed grave mistakes in Muzaffarnagar when this entire thing had happened.
Yeah.
And that was one of our, one of our points. We told him that he'll have to admit and come here and say that these are mistakes that will be corrected. So we only hope they're corrected. Our pressure is there on
But
them
do you
to
think
correct.
he's secular? Do you think Mulayam Singh Yadav is secular?
Well, today, if if he's willing to take a secular position, I'm willing to go along with him.
But that's just
I
positioning.
cannot give you a
That's
guarantee.
posturing.
I honestly, I cannot give you a guarantee. But at the moment, I think he is secular, because at the moment, the positions that he is taking and the whatever criticism of himself that he was willing to accept as far as Muzaffarnagar is concerned, that is good, but action has to follow. We are not happy with that.
You don't see the parallels between the riots that happen on Narendra Modi's watch, for which you dub him communal, and the riots that happen on Mulayam Singh Yadav's watch, for which you don't dub him communal.
Yeah, till date, there is not one expression of remorse. Forget a word from Narendra Modi. For
Not
what
from
happened.
Mulayam. Not from Mulayam.
No, his convention in presence of us, we said, if you're going to be here, you'll have to say this. He said it.
Jayalalitha secular, if her party showed up for your 11-party meeting, since then the alliance is broken. The same Jayalalitha or Karunanidhi, who today both call Mr. Modi good friends, they're secular for you when they're sitting with you. They're not secular when they sit with
Listen,
Mr. Modi.
As far as Jayalalitha is concerned, or the AIDMK and the DMK is concerned, all of us know both of them have dealt with the BJP. They've been part of the NDA before.
Yes.
Janata Dal United was part of the NDA. So all these people have that baggage of history. Today, if they are willing to state that they are going to stand for an alternative direction, I said, fair enough, come along. Let us try and do it together.
Are there still any openings left for Jayalalitha, or is it a closed chapter for this election?
Well, she has chosen a different path now. I mean, she has now said that she is going to be work for a non-Congress government and a non-BJP government.
She's called Mamta Banerjee, your fierce opponent in Bengal. Could Mamta Banerjee, CPM, Jayalalitha, Naveen Patnaik, Nitish Kumar all be part of the same front?
Again, as I said, what will be the policy direction?
You could share a front with Mamta Banerjee, a national front?
No, the point is, where does she stand? Today the point is very clear. She's been completely and thoroughly ambivalent on where she stands vis-a-vis the communal forces.
She's criticized Narendra Modi.
Where?
She has, in interviews, she has criticized Narendra Modi.
Today, not one word is uttered publicly. Not one word against Muslim fundamentalism occurred publicly. What is happening in the whole of Bangladesh, what we are seeing there, the rise of fundamentalism, on that which has a very, very deep and direct impact on Bengal next door.
But are you concerned that Jayalalitha and Mamta Banerjee seem to have come closer together? Because when you talk of a non-Congress, non-BJP front, you can't ignore these two leaders.
Listen, I'm not really concerned, or it doesn't bother me who groups up with whom. I'm only bothered about who will stand in which direction.
So Mamta and left could be part of the same federal front?
No, I doubt it. Because neither in terms of policies nor in terms of approach towards communalism, there is any commonality.
All right, next question, Mahashweta Guha. Mahashweta, where are you? Yes.
So my question to you is simple, like why has the idea of communism failed in India? Like since 90 years of the inception of your party, you had not have been able to expand beyond 3 states in the country.
It's not failed. I won't be here. No, there won't be other people who would still be coming towards communism. Because you see, what has happened, there are various factors. You see, I mean, there have been international developments, national developments, wrong assessments, because of which the communist movement got divided into 3 major streams. But there's another important thing. You see, communism or Marxism is not a set of doctrinaire ideas. As Marx himself said, and Lenin also said subsequently, concrete analysis of concrete conditions is the living essence of this philosophy in science. When conditions keep changing, if your analysis does not change, then in my opinion, you are not a Marxist.
Give us an example of how the left has evolved with the times.
I'll tell you. You see, for instance, the question of in any Marxist literature, you will not find any reference to anything called the caste question. Now, caste is an Indian reality. Now, it is something that however much we may want to wish away, it is not going to go. Now, why it doesn't go? How do you integrate the caste issue with class struggle? So, how have we integrated that, and what is our analysis, and how is it different? Unlike in many other capitalist countries, the class struggle in India is not only stands on 2 feet, like all of us. 1 foot is that of economic exploitation, The other is that of social oppression. Unless you are able to fight against both these, no communist movement or a class struggle can advance.
Okay.
Now, if you made the mistake of standing only on one leg of economic exploitation, you will only keep limping. That was an underestimation of the social factors at one time. That has been corrected.
Let's take the next question from Falguni Tiwari. Falguni, are you here?
So what, according to you, is the ideological basis of the left when they oppose the Congress in the name of corruption, and on the other hand, they are seeking support from the tainted Ms. Jayalalitha, then Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav and Ms. Mayawati in the name of the Third Front?
Well, you see, we are not really seeking any support from these people. If you notice that in many of these states, the people whom you have mentioned, with them there are no even seat alliances the left has entered into.
Well, Jayalalitha, you wanted to enter into one.
At one point of time, there was an offer.
Yeah.
But then that is something that she thought twice, and all the better, in the sense that we are not very unhappy. That's her decision. But the point here at issue is, as I've been trying to tell you, remember, okay, let me put it this way so that, it's more understandable. My objective is to reach Agra from Delhi. Now, if somebody can assist me to reach till Mathura faster, I'll use that assistance. No?
But where does that
So
leave?
today, if there are people who are willing to push me till Mathura, then fine,
Then why does that process exclude the Congress? And I know I'm coming back to it for a reason. Aditi Phadnis, senior journalist, wrote a profile on you, and in that she mentioned that among the left leaders, Sitaram Yechuri has a great equation with Sonia Gandhi. She also tells this anecdote that when Sonia Gandhi was about could have been Prime Minister and eventually decided to make Manmohan Singh the Prime Minister, you were among those leaders who actually went to meet her and you were ready to support Sonia Gandhi as Prime Minister. You shared a cartoon that you had seen where the Italians looked on Sonia Gandhi as a foreigner instead of the Indians looking at her as a foreigner. So first let me ask you, is it true that the left wanted Sonia Gandhi as Prime Minister back then?
Well, it was not left alone. At that point of time, everybody felt it was Mrs. Gandhi who should legitimately be the next Prime Minister. Because remember, that election was a fiercely fought election and she was the one that symbolized that whole fight against the BJP at that point of time.
So
and
you
then
believe she should have been Prime Minister?
She should have been Prime Minister. But I must say, and this is something, it's on record and I've confessed, I think she has displayed an enormous amount of political acumen, which I didn't, honestly speaking, I can confess, which I didn't realize at that point of time. The merit of that political acumen, that her fact that she was not an Indian-born citizen is something that could be used against her and has got a potential for disruption in the future. That is something which I personally had underestimated.
So when you met her, you did encourage her to take on the post of Prime
No, I
Minister?
said this is what everybody wants. That's true. That's a fact. I said everybody, this is what they want, and people think that, that was a natural thing. After this victory, you would be the thing.
So given that equation, if Sonia Gandhi were to call you in the future and say, Sitaram, come support our government.
Hari, she knows more than anybody else that Sitaram is not going to support anybody because A or B, I like her, dislike her. Sitaram is going to support anybody or oppose anybody on the basis of policies. And I must say the strongest ally we had at that point of time in drafting a common minimum program and having that implemented was Mrs. Gandhi herself. Because she knew as much as we knew that no support from the left would have been possible without a
So she was the
program.
leftist in the Congress.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say that she displayed a political acumen, as I would repeat that word, which at that point of time, very few would believe that she had possessed such an acumen,
So how do you
which was a very good, pleasant surprise and a very good thing for
How
the
do you
country.
assess Rahul Gandhi?
Well, I think he's a very well-meaning individual who wants to serve the country. But let's see. What his ideas are. They are still to what you call.
Let me put it to you like
fructify.
this. Are you more open to the idea of doing business with Rahul Gandhi than Narendra Modi?
Again, Verka, it all depends on the policies. You had a common minimum program. We said, as long as you adhere to this, we will support.
So why, can you imagine that scenario again of the CMP, of the Common Minimum Program? Can you see yourself doing business with Rahul Gandhi on the basis of a Common Minimum Program?
However much I would love to answer that question, I don't see that possibility.
So is the answer no or I don't know? Sitaram, is the answer no or I don't know?
That doesn't exist in my opinion. That possibility will not come.
Okay, let's take the next question. Prateek Paul. Prateek, where are you? Yes.
There's a lot of political clamor surrounding Mr. Modi and Mr. Kejriwal, and it's being considered that even Rahul Gandhi is fighting a lost battle. Where do you see a barrage of political parties coming together on a supposed policy measure to provide an alternative to these parties?
You see, that alternative, my dear friend, will come only on the basis of an alternative program. Now, you see, opinions on the basis of individuals are very, very transient. You know, in my younger days, I mean, let's say going back, I mean, when philosophology was an art that just started, and the channel that Varka comes from, I mean, they were the pioneers in doing that, and you had these opinion polls and all that. And it was always baffling because none of them turned out to be right. So people are wondering what the hell was happening. I don't think any one of them will ever turn out right. So our inevitable R.K. Lakshman, he had a fantastic cartoon which actually puts it in a nutshell. The reality of India, that we should never go by impressions. It says it's about the opinion polls. A man comes home and starts complaining to his wife that I made a mistake. I stamped the wrong box. Those days were ballot, boxes that needed to be stamped. He said, I made a mistake, I stamped the wrong box. So before the wife could start chiding him, he suddenly says, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. I corrected myself in the exit poll. So what these polls are about, Indian mind, Indian person doing it is impossible for you to gauge.
The next question, David Babu. David, where are you? Yes.
Sir, your Communist Party of India has been known to protect, have socialist and egalitarian views, which the Aam Aadmi Party also has. My question is the CPIM really wary of the Aam Aadmi Party replacing your party as the fulcrum of the left front or the socialist front?
Do you see the Aam Aadmi Party as an ideological fellow traveler?
Yeah, you see, the point is, again, as I said, it depends on the policies, and we have told the Aam Aadmi Party, we've told them publicly, and on these two issues, on the economic policy trajectory, where do you stand? And on the question of communalism, where do you stand?
How do you see Arvind Kejriwal's current campaign?
No, he is a well-meaning person. Maybe
you calling Rahul Gandhi well-meaning, Arvind Kejriwal well-meaning?
All of them are. Again, that's exactly...
Are you going to call Narendra Modi well-meaning?
No.
Is Mr. Modi well-meaning also?
You just move a step forward and say whether they are well-meaning or not in the final analysis for me depends on the policies they'll follow. I've asked Mr. Kejriwal and the Aam Aadmi Party, these two issues, tell me where you stand.
How do you describe Arvind Kejriwal's politics? How do you see it?
At the moment, I don't think they have crystallized. You see, on the economic policy matters, they have not crystallized. Neither have they crystallized on the issue of communalism and the...
Why do you say that? He's taking on Mr. Modi?
Yes, he's taking on Mr. Modi.
He's actually doing what the Congress doesn't seem to have the gumption to do.
You know, you had that again, that opinion poll, which you're talking of the polls, which say that the majority of the Aam Aadmi followers have said that they prefer Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister.
How many of you think the Aam Aadmi Party is occupying the public mind space that the left once used to occupy? The public mind space. So that's about, I would say, roughly half this audience. Okay, let's take a question from you in the black t-shirt. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is, I mean, there is a conspicuous distance between the left and the AAP. As ma'am was saying, I mean, there are certain commonalities between the two parties, and yet there is this very conspicuous distance maintained. I don't see why, like when you're going ahead with the idea of the third front, instead of bringing maybe the AAP on board, you are trying to woo parties such as the Samajwadi Party.
So you want them to woo the Aam Aadmi Party? You want the Aam Aadmi Party and the left to come together?
There are certain commonalities between the two which you share. And there is a second question. What is your stand on the idea of pragmatism versus populism that is being practiced by Mr. Kejriwal?
You see, as far as the first question is concerned, I mean, I think the ball is in the court of the AAP. We do have no antagonism. We want anybody who is willing to be clear on those two issues today. Alternate policy direction against communalism. If you're clear, then most welcome. But it's up to them to clarify that position.
Do you
Now,
see
they are
them,
not clarifying so far.
Do you see them as potential partners?
If they clarify on these two, if they clarify on these two,
What's
we
he
see
done
that
right and what's he done wrong so far, Arvind Kejriwal?
he's not saying where he stands on this.
On what?
On the economic policy measures, on the question, let's say, of bank denationalization.
They have a party manifesto.
No, where is it? On these issues, that's silent. That's silent. I mean, Stephens has taught me enough English to understand. So, but on these issues, they are silent. That is my problem. My problem is not that I like them, dislike them, not at all. As I told you, I mean, there are a number of them with whom we have been interacted for years.
But Prashant Bhushan went to meet Achyutanandan in Kerala.
And what did he tell them? He said, join us. So Achyutanandan replied, what? He said, I have been a communist for more than 60 years. I'll die a communist. So then when we said, let us fight together the corruption, he said, no, CPM is a corrupt party from top to bottom. If that is their characterization of us, then what do you expect, tell me?
Question Apurva Taluri. Apurva, yes. Yeah.
Sir, if the CPIM truly wants to impact the political landscape, then why do top brass leaders like you, Ms. Brinda Karat and Prakash Karat, not contest the elections? Also, since the desired non-BJP, non-Congress alliance has not cropped up yet, are you open to the idea of a standalone bout with the BJP and the Congress?
Yes, if it comes to it, standalone bout, yes, we are not merely open to it, we are committed to it.
Why don't you contest elections, she asked.
You see, let me confess, brother, I mean, in these corridors, this time, those were the times also when you had people, part of student politics because you wanted to be an MLA, MP, etc., etc. And when we came towards politics, we came not because of those aspirations, and we said politics is much more than just electoral politics. An idea that is I still continue to adhere to. Very reluctantly I came into the parliament. I came in the specific time which you remember very well, when Somnath Chatterjee was made the speaker, and I said, a CPM voice is required. He was the voice earlier. So therefore I was sent to the Rajya Sabha. Otherwise for 20 years I kept myself away. The point is not that you're afraid of electoral politics. The point is politics means the most important leaders in our country were those who never contested elections.
But Jyoti Basu said it was a historic
Mahatma
blunder.
Gandhi, Jayaprakash Narayan, I mean, they changed the destiny of this country. So electoral politics is one element of politics. For heaven's sake, that consciousness must come. Today, politics means electoral politics, MLA, MP, what will you be, your status, the number of blackguards with you, the number of gun-toting people.
But Sitaram, in the past, the CPI, your fellow traveller, has been willing to be part of government. The CPM has stayed out. Jyoti Basu famously, in his own words, said it was a historic blunder to stop him from being Prime Minister.
Correct.
Are you willing to say that to be more relevant, the CPM can't remain that party which is outside government all the time? You need to be part of a government at the centre if the chance were to arise.
No, the people of Bengal, sustained it for 35 years. I mean, it's not that we are afraid
of
being...
Do you agree with Mr. Basu's characterization?
You see,
do you believe that was a historic blunder?
You see, there was an assessment. Please try and understand. It was a serious question. The assessment was that we were 32 MPs in a majority of 272. Now, a 32 MP party in a majority of 272 will end up neither implementing what they have promised the people for which people voted them, and they may have to implement what they have been opposing and will continue to oppose on the roads because of the coalition that he'll be led with. In either case, we thought we will be betraying the people. Jyoti Basu had a different assessment. In the party, he said, no, we have this opportunity, let us tell the people what we can do, or we can show the people an alternative
Don't you think
direction.
he was a senior enough leader to be allowed to make that choice?
No, he was senior enough leader. We took him very seriously. It was debated, and that is our inner party democracy, believe it or not, that people like Jyoti Basu and Surjit got outvoted, and they not merely remained in the party, continued to be its leaders till they died.
So Aniket Bakshi, Aniket, where are you? Aniket, your question, yes. Yeah.
So, sir, my question is more related to your alternative policy program that you have proposed throughout. So, I'll be focusing on only one tiny aspect, which is regarding land acquisition. Now, how do you think your parties stand on land acquisition, which is outrightly like, no, we don't like this, right? How do you think this squares with the fact that land was acquired in Singur to give to the Tatas at a concession rate?
You see, number one, our alternative is not merely in the question of land acquisition, no. I mean, it's a much larger alternative in the sense today, for instance, let me give you just an example, otherwise the time will. I mean, you know, for the last 3-4 years or more, since Pranab Mukherjee started giving a document called the tax statement on tax foregone, every year, every financial year, you are being foregoing a tax on an average of more than 5 lakh crores of rupees annually. Okay, half of it may be in litigation, etc. At least, let's say 2.5 to 3 lakh crores. 2.5 to 3 lakh crores you're giving as incentives for growth, tax concessions. And your manufacturing is growing by minus 0.1. So you give all these incentives, this money is going into the hands who are already rich. So instead of that, collect this tax, legitimate tax, invest it, build your infrastructure that you require, build your irrigational infrastructure, help your rural areas, you will generate lakhs and lakhs of new jobs. When they have the money to spend, domestic demand rises, manufacturing will rise, industrial production will rise, and the economy will grow.
Okay, now is this young audience convinced? As we end, how many of you think the left needs to reinvent itself, that it hasn't changed enough for the times? Raise your hand and then I want to hear from you why you think that. Those of you who think the left hasn't adapted with the times. Okay, so not too many hands going up. So that's maybe this is still a leftist crowd.
Yeah, good,
Those of you who think the left should remain as it is, raise your hand.
Not as it
All right,
is.
confused.
I'm sure
This
neither
is
would I raise my hand.
You, okay. All right. Those who thought the left should adapt with the times, raise your hand. I'm going to take a question from one of you who said it should. In the check shirt here in the second row. Yes.
Sir, I don't get it when you say that you don't play the caste card in the Indian politics, while the other parties have shown that playing the caste card can get you electoral votes. So basically my question is, which section of society does the CPIM target in the end?
The downtrodden, the marginalized and the exploited. They may belong to any caste. You know, for instance, I mean, I hope you'll never ask, because, you know, I've never had, very seldom anybody ask me what is my caste.
But you remember those years in college when if you were asked what is your caste, what is your religion, none of us ever answered.
No, never did.
But were we in denial? Were we in denial about the realities cocooned by this St. Stephen's College?
Not denial, not this sense of denial. I'm saying we represent that hope. I was born in a very deeply religious family. No, but the point is, when you become conscious, when you accept something, then I have the right to say that. India doesn't give you that right still. I mean, I'm fighting for that. So I don't adapt to that particular, I mean, caste question or anything. Neither do I ask, neither am I. I mean, I just don't care, you know, which caste you belong to. As far as I am concerned, you're a human being. That's it, period.
Ritika Nair. Ritika, where are you? Ritika, you get the last question. Yes.
I, as a citizen, wanted to know what is this other alternative policy that is there in your mind, because we are unaware of the economic policies, the so-called neoliberal policies. What are these policies? Because Mr. Modi is also focusing on development of India largely. So since you're also focusing on another side of development, how is it different from his idea of development, sir?
Quickly, Sita.
Very good. I just explained when I told you about the tax foregone, etc. That is one aspect of it. The question is not of development. Development for whom? You have today, in my opinion, two Indias in the making. You have a shining India that's glittering for a few, literally glittering, and then you have the vast mass of what I would say suffering India, and for whom the situation, to some of them, unfortunately, is worsening. Now the question is development for whom? Now the sort of policies that Mr. Modi or they are talking about are policies that will only enrich the rich. Now, you allow greater foreign investment. Fine, I have nothing against foreign investment, but any foreign investment that comes into my country should add to my employment, should upgrade me technologically, and should increase the productive capacity of my economy. Any foreign investment that comes to take over the Indian productive forces is meaningless for me. They make the profits,
okay,
but it doesn't add on.
I have to end by asking you, who is the prime ministerial candidate of the non-Congress, non-BJP front? Why is this important this time? Because this is an election where personalities are dominating the political narrative like never before. So when we see this motley crew, this motley crew of leaders with nothing really to bind them but political ambition. These voters have a right to know who is your PM candidate.
You say not even political ambition as far as we are concerned. It's not political ambition that binds us. It's the hope that there will be an alternative direction. But let me tell you, you see however personality-oriented Indian election campaign may be, in the final analysis, remember this is the country that defeated the mighty Indira Gandhi herself. So whoever today says, I will be the next Prime Minister, what the people of their constituency will do when they vote, wait. Let us wait and see who will get elected, who will not get elected.
Who do you think will be the next Prime Minister? Who do you think will be the next Prime Minister?
A person who will uphold the secular democratic foundations of India and follow an alternative policy.
All right, we'll leave it there. Big round of applause for Sitaram Yechuri. Thank you so much.